Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, and we are knee-deep into the world of Destiny 2 Season of the Haunted, and along with that, of course, Solar 3.0. We got a lot of new toys to play with this season, and I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what kind of build I want to run with. And man, I have to say, there's like 6 that I have been swapping between and trying to perfect. A few of my favorite ones have been for Warlock though, and I wanted to post one of them really quickly here today. This build focuses on getting constant grenade energy back, constant bonuses to your weapon damage with class abilities, and massive sustained focused damage. All of this will be circulating around the idea of using fusion grenades. And no, it's not the Sunbracers build, though that one's great and I'll be having a video on that as well. This build focuses around the usage of fusion grenades, which got a major buff with Solar 3.0 and the new aspect Touch of Flame, where your fusion grenades will explode twice. This allows you to put out massive amounts of damage on single and multiple targets that all huddle around the same enemy. And when used in conjunction with the Warlock exotic chest piece Starfire Protocol, you can make some magic happen with Solar 3.0. Let's go ahead and dive on into things. As I stated, the build focuses on Starfire Protocol, which comes with the ability Fusion Harness. Fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. Fusion grenade kills will grant you Rift energy. So in addition to getting a second fusion grenade charge, you'll be getting bonuses to your fusion grenade cooldown from weapon damage that you put out while standing in an empowerment rift. And for every kill you get with a fusion grenade, you're gonna get Rift energy back. The way this kind of works out is you get into a fight, you drop an empowering rift, you start throwing fusion grenades. Once you've used your fusion grenades, shoot a couple of targets while you're in that rift, you'll get your grenade energy back almost instantaneously. And then you can just go back to chucking fusion grenades, and every time your fusion grenade gets a kill, you'll immediately get your empowering rift back, creating a constant feedback cycle that is going to have you chucking grenades in perpetuity. And again, thanks to the increased damage that fusion grenades have, these things are sometimes dealing more damage than some of the hardest hitting rockets in the game. So having a pocket chock full of them is definitely worthwhile. Alright, let's get into the build itself. For the aspects and the fragments and the subclass setup, your super is really up to your choice. You can of course rock Well of Radiance or Daybreak. Daybreak if you want to deal more damage, Well if you're playing more of a support role. Then for the abilities, definitely want to run Empowering Rift. This is going to give you that empowered weapon damage, so you're dealing a lot more damage to your enemies, and your kills and damage dealt while you're standing in an Empowering Rift is going to give you that grenade energy back. Burst Glide, of course, is my favorite. Incinerator Snap is an amazing new melee, always worthwhile. It scorches and ignites targets. And then, of course, set up for fusion grenades. For the aspects, you're going to want Touch of Flame. With this, your grenades will have additional effects. For fusion grenades, it causes them to explode twice. It's great for dealing massive damage to groups of adds in PvE. And then, of course, we've got Icarus Dash. This is really kind of up to your choice. If you want to run Heat Rises and stay in the air like an AC-130, you certainly can. But I like Icarus Dash because it gives you a little bit more mobility, and of course you need to stay on the ground so you can cast your Empowering Rift whenever you need that additional grenade energy. Alright. As for the fragments, we've of course got Ember of Wonder. Rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions generates an orb of power. And of course, for ignitions, those are large solar explosions which deal damage in an area around the target. They work based off of the Scorch mechanic. As you're landing these fusion grenade shots on enemies, targets will be singed by a destructive solar light, causing them to take damage over time. Scorch damage increases as the target accumulates more Scorch stacks. I think that Scorch stack maxes out at 100, and basically fusion grenades get them there really, really quickly. Once you've maxed out those stacks, targets ignite and explode everywhere. It's great stuff. Alright, next up, Ember of Tempering. Solar weapon final blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration. This can stack up to 3 times. And while Ember of Tempering is active, your weapons have increased airborne effectiveness. I added this in here because this build kind of lacks a little bit of the extra recovery that we enjoyed with Void 3.0 and Devour builds. So this will help you keep alive a little bit longer, especially since you're using an Empowering Rift rather than a healing one. Out of that, we've got Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy. Because you're going to be scorching enemies all over the place with your fusion grenades, getting kills on those enemies is going to be giving you back your melee energy, which is always good here. Finally, we have Ember of Eruption. Your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. This is going to make your ignition explosions much, much larger, which is always a good thing in PvE. That's the basic setup for the aspects and fragments. There's some things you can change out here. I know once this fragment becomes available, Ember of Char is absolutely going to be something that I toss on here and play around with. With this, your solar ignitions will be able to spread scorch to affected targets. So you scorch one target, they explode. When they explode, they spread scorch to everybody else around them. That's going to be absolutely massive when we finally get this unlocked. It looks like it's going to happen probably when the dungeon goes live at the end of the week. Alright, so that's it for the subclass stuff. Let's take a look at the weapons themselves. There's a lot of different weapons you can use in conjunction with this. Because the Empowering Rift bonus to Starfire Protocol is just based on weapon damage itself, you can really use whatever you want. But of course, if you want to go with the theme of Solar 3.0, Sunshot is one of the kings right now. Being able to basically get those solar explosions all over the place is really, really good. But I've had a lot of fun with the Prometheus lens for the last couple of days. One of the reasons why is this gun deals massive damage, but also sustained damage with it applies scorch to targets. So you can just go out there, shoot enemies, and they'll become scorched as you're dealing more damage to them. And the damage over time done by scorch when applied by the Prometheus lens counts as weapon damage in terms of the game's internal AI. So when you burn targets with scorch on the Prometheus lens and they start taking that damage over time, it's going to give you your grenade energy back as long as you're standing in an Empowering Rift. Prometheus lens is definitely a great choice this season. As for your heavy, really personal choice. I love the Cataclysmic from the raid. Definitely a top tier linear fusion rifle. Alright, now for the armor mods. First up, we have got Well of Life. Again, this is just for the sustain. These builds can be a little bit squishy this season if you're not running max resilience, which by the way, I would definitely recommend. Resilience is a lot more beneficial now. You can get some pretty big damage reduction gains that work in PvE now. But Well of Life is here. When you pick up a Solar Elemental Well, it's going to increase your regeneration for a short period of time to give you a little bit of extra healing there. Of course, Ashes to Assets is always great, and I went for Recovery to help me get my Rift back if there's ever an opportunity where I run out of grenade and Rift energy. Next up, we've got Elemental Ordnance. The element here on your gauntlets is really kind of up to choice. I went with Stasis so you could get Grenade Kickstart as well as Fastball to toss those grenades a little bit further. But with Elemental Ordnance, defeating a combatant with a grenade spawns an Elemental Well that matches your subclass energy type. We're going to be throwing a lot of grenades with this. This is going to be spawning a lot of wells. Then, of course, we've got the Starfire protocol itself. I'm running this with another elemental ordnance that I'm going to be doubling up with the Bountiful Well mods that you can see here on my boots. Of course, with Bountiful Wells, elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. So the more elemental ordnance you've got on, the more elemental wells are going to be spawned. Finally, of course, we've got Explosive Well Maker, where rapidly defeating combatants with explosive damage spawns a solar elemental well. You're going to be blowing up a lot of enemies between your ignitions and the fusion grenades themselves, so they're going to help spawn a few more solar elemental wells to activate that Well of Life. Alright, that's it for the basic build, and there's plenty of things you can change about it. Like in particular, if you're finding that you don't need all the extra elemental wells, I did go a little bit overboard with the elemental ordnance, there's a few things you can change up. One would be maybe swapping Bountiful Wells over to something like Wrath of Rasputin, where solar splash damage final blows have a chance to create Warmind cells. Warmind cells definitely got major nerfs in the past, but being able to spawn them with your explosions, which you're going to be getting all over the place, will give you a little bit of extra damage that you can put out. And then if you were to do that, I'd probably swap the second elemental ordnance to something like Font of Might to give your Prometheus lens even more damage. But overall, that's the basics of the build. You just drop into combat, throw down that Empowering Rift, start throwing fusion grenades, and then get weapon kills or weapon damage whenever you run out of grenade energy. This syncs up really well. I've been running Nightfalls and stuff with it. And in some bits of content, especially with Solar Singe active as it is right now, you can one-shot a lot of the more powerful enemies in the game just by throwing fusion grenades at them. This build's working wonders as basically a consistent damage option, and I'm having a lot of fun playing around with it. If there was one real complaint I had with this build, aside from the whole recovery thing, it's kind of rough going away from Devour and being able to instantly get your health and energy back. But if there was one thing I had to complain about, it's that I wish Bungie would upgrade some of the definitions for their legacy exotics like Starfire Protocol. Right now, the only way to get Starfire Protocol's benefits is by standing in an Empowering Rift to deal empowered damage. But We've got Radiant now, which also gives you empowered damage. Unfortunately, Radiant currently doesn't work with Starfire Protocol. If Bungie were to upgrade this, if they were to upgrade Starfire Protocol so that Radiant enhanced weapon damage would also give you your grenade energy back, that, in my opinion, would make Starfire Protocol an immediate S-tier exotic. Since you'd be able to get yourself Radiant in a variety of ways, it means you could go to using Healing Rift or Phoenix Dive or anything like that, and still have the benefits of the Starfire Protocol. Hopefully that's a change they look into making in the future. But anyways, Guardians, that's just a quick look at the Infinite Fusion Grenades build that I'm running right now, and a few reasons for why you may want to run it. If you're someone who doesn't have the Sun Bracers or doesn't want to run that particular type of build, Starfire Protocol and Fusion Grenades are definitely a viable, easy to create option. And so, hopefully this video gave you something new to try. But anyways, that's it for this video. Hopefully it helped. If you've got any other crazy builds for Hunter, Warlock, Titan, post them down in the comment section below. We're going to be making more than just the Warlock build video this time around, I promise you. But if you enjoyed, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. I'm out for now. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty, and I hope you're enjoying Solar 3.0.